If you're dealing with dysautonomia, you're probably dealing with some symptoms that are pretty unpleasant. And when you're looking for answers for yourself, that search for answers might be just as unpleasant because the information out there about dysautonomia and other autonomic nervous system dysfunctions is really not that helpful. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to give you a different point of view. Because sometimes when you're dealing with a problem and you're having a really hard time finding answers, it can be really beneficial to look at that problem from a different point of view. This is going to be something.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now just keep in mind that I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving you any medical advice, and I don't want anything that you learn here to keep you from seeking medical help if you really need it. So when people talk about dysautonomia and other autonomic nervous system issues, they're usually going to talk in regards to like, well, is it a primary issue where the autonomic nervous system is malfunctioning? Or is it a secondary issue where maybe something's contributing to that malfunction? Or they'll even talk about medications that can sometimes possibly affect the autonomic nervous system's ability to function correctly. And when we want to understand this autonomic nervous system, this is basically a system that kind of runs a lot of our bodily operations behind the curtains without us really having to think about it. We don't have to think about our blood pressure or breathing or digesting. These things all just kind of happen. And there's two sides. There's a parasympathetic side, which is our rest and digest side. And then there's the sympathetic side, which is our fight and flight side. This is our stress response. And both of these states are appropriate. The problem is that for a variety of reasons, some people can get kind of stuck in one of these states and they won't move back and forth when it's appropriate. So when someone's really stuck in this parasympathetic state, we see a lot of things like seasonal allergies and asthma. And when we see somebody stuck in a sympathetic state, we'll see things like a short temper. That's pretty common to see because someone's kind of on edge. They're kind of in that fight or flight mode all of the time, so it's very easy to set them off. So a lot of the symptoms that people deal with when they have dysautonomia have to do with the functions of the autonomic nervous system on either side of that system. And one of the most common symptoms that's going to come up or be talked about with this issue is the orthostatic hypotension. And this is a case where you might be lying down and you stand up and your blood pressure kind of drops, and a person might feel dizzy or have a lot of problems where they can't really stand up. Maybe they'll pass out in a really extreme case. But we really want to see the blood pressure rise as we stand, because as we stand up, the blood needs to go from this position to make it up to our head. And the body should raise that blood pressure to help that blood get up there. So when the blood pressure is dropping, that can be a problem. And there's a lot of people that look at this almost like a sign of adrenal fatigue. I think we have a video about adrenal fatigue. I'll try to link that in the description below, where we talk about when you can take your blood pressure lying down and then you stand up and take it again, it should go up because the adrenals should be helping the body get that blood flow where it's supposed to go. And when it doesn't, it can be a sign that the adrenals are a little bit tired and can't really do the job of helping the body get that blood where it's supposed to go. And I don't view that as a scenario where a person needs to treat their adrenal fatigue. I kind of view it as, well, the adrenals are tired because the body's asking them to make all these hormones to help the body function when the body doesn't really have the resources to function correctly. And so these adrenals will be called on, they help the body function, but after a while they just can't keep up and they kind of get tired and they won't do that function anymore. So to correct adrenal fatigue, we like to see people fix the underlying cause of why the body is needing all of those extra hormones to help the body function in the first place. And for some folks, it can just be a matter of not having enough adaptive capacity. And what that means is that the body should be able to adapt to different circumstances. Whether you're in a calm state and needs to adapt to a stress state, or maybe the temperature changes and the body needs to adapt to regulate that body temperature. And a lot of people dealing with these issues will have a hard time regulating body temperature, and they'll have a really hard time with that. And when we look at this autonomic nervous system, I'll put a link in the description below for some papers that kind of feel like, well, when people are having trouble with this, it seems to be that when they're really stuck in this sympathetic state or having problems with this sympathetic state, that the symptoms are a lot worse and that there's a lot more of those symptoms. So when we're looking at this autonomic nervous system and people dealing with this dysautonomia, it seems that a lot of times there's a problem where they're too stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight state all of the time. And you hear a lot of people say that stress can be a major trigger where they're going to see a lot of those symptoms really magnify. So we want to kind of make a little bit of sense of this. And a lot of the common symptoms that we'll see are things like dizzy, vertigo, fainting, kind of like when they stand up. That can be a really big problem. We hear people say they have to pee a lot at night, maybe fast heart rate, anxiety, nausea and diarrhea, inability to stay upright even in those really severe cases. We see things like a fast or irregular heartbeat, low blood pressure, gastrointestinal problems, nausea, loss of appetite, and even constipation. So when we're looking at these issues, what we want to understand is what is going on. If this issue is them stuck in this sympathetic state, people kind of view this as, wow, I have this dysautonomia, and look at all these things that happen to me because of that. I have all of these issues and all of these symptoms that come up because I have this dysautonomia and my autonomic nervous system isn't working correctly. But what if the situation is that it's not really the dysautonomia causing all of these symptoms? What if it's the things that are causing these symptoms in the first place that's creating the dysautonomia, that's creating the problem with the autonomic nervous system? Because when we're diagnosed with something where the explanation is, we don't really understand why this happens, then that kind of leaves you in a place where, well, what do I do? What's my next step? But what if there are these simple things that are going on that are creating a stress in the body? Because when you're stressed, you move into this fight or flight state. The fight or flight state is there to help us survive. If you're running from a lion, the body wants to change the way that it's operating so that you can get away from that lion. It's appropriate. You want it to happen. You want to have all this extra fuel and extra resources and the body operating at this higher level to get away from that lion. But that stress response in nature is supposed to work for like 2 to 4 minutes. In 2 to 4 minutes, it's decided whether you got away from that lion or not. But it's over either way. You either got away or you're lunch. And so this autonomic nervous system sympathetic fight or flight side is really meant for short periods of time. But in our life today, we're not really running from lions. We're stressed because we can't pay rent, or our boss is a jerk. Or another problem that seems to be very common is that the body can be stressed. And the body has lost this adaptive capacity because it's dealing with the stress. So you can deal with the fact that you just spilled your water. You can deal with a crying baby. You can deal with someone ringing your doorbell and trying to sell you a car warranty for a car you haven't owned in 15 years. Each of those things are fine and you can deal with them. But if they all happen at the same time and then you stub your toe on the way to answer the door, all of a sudden you have a complete meltdown. It's just too many things at once. So when you have actual stress in your life, well, that's really going to magnify all the problems that can come from that. So I wanted to talk about this because over on our video for how to know if your circadian rhythm is off, Becky said, oh, this sounds like dysautonomia. I have that and I'm dealing with a lot of these issues that you're talking about. Because when we look at some of these symptoms that go along with this dysautonomia, we see things like, oh, I got to pee all the time at night, I have a fast heart rate, I'm dealing with anxiety. But if you look at the body's natural circadian rhythm, it was Dr. Emmanuel Rivisi who helped us understand that the body has this natural circadian rhythm at the cellular level. Where during the day we should be in this catabolic state where the body is very good at creating energy and breaking down cells so that the body can be rebuilt and renewed. And then at night, the body should move into this anabolic state where it's very good at sleeping and resting and rebuilding and repairing. And both of these states are great too, but if someone gets stuck in one of these states for a variety of reasons, it creates a lot of health symptoms. And one thing we want to look at is that an overly anabolic state will create these problems of peeing a lot at night and a fast heart rate and anxiety problems. And there's other problems that can create anxiety, but this is a very common issue. So when someone's dealing with this broad spectrum diagnosis type situation, then we need to look at the fact that maybe it's not just this creating all these things, There could be the body dealing with multiple issues that are all magnifying the inability for the autonomic nervous system to function the way that it's supposed to function. And I think it has the ability to go both ways. When we're looking at these symptoms over here, like the nausea and the diarrhea and the gastrointestinal problems and the nausea again, anybody notice that I put that on there twice? All these are signs of digestion not working correctly. So when we eat food, our stomachs should make hydrochloric acid so that we can break that food down and get all the nutrients out of that food. And then when that food leaves the stomach in its acidic state, the gallbladder should squirt this alkaline bile down there to help neutralize those acids and help us really bust the food apart and get all those nutrients out of that food. But if either of those sides are not working the way that they should, which is very common, it's very common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid, and it's very common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly. And if both of those sides aren't working, you're going to end up with symptoms like this. You're going to end up with that gastrointestinal issues because then the food is not breaking down. Instead, it has to break down by rotting and fermenting, and that creates all these gases and pressure and toxins that can lead to this nausea stuff, so much that I had to list it twice. And all of those symptoms can come from an inability to break down your food and get the nutrients out of that food. And when you can't get the nutrients and minerals out of that food, then a lot of people are going to see this low blood pressure issue that keeps showing up for these folks. And blood pressure can be a reflection of the minerals in the system, and it can also show like filth and protein a little bit and sugar. So you got to kind of look at everything and see what's really going on. But when blood pressure is low, like that systolic number, the top number is below 112, that's a really strong sign that there's not enough minerals in the system. And when there's not enough minerals in the system, the body can't function the way that it needs to function. And it says, hey, I don't have enough resources, what can I do? Oh, I can raise these stress hormones, and these hormones can help me function a little bit, and I can push myself into this emergency state, this fight or flight state, so that the body will say, oh, well, we're in an emergency. Let's break down some of this tissue and turn that into glucose so we have fuel. And it takes all these steps to help the body function at a higher level because the body is stressed about not having enough resources. If you had to pay $800 worth of bills with 12 bucks, that's a big stress for you. Well, the same stress for the body. If it doesn't have enough resources to carry out all the functions that it needs to function, that can be a stress, and that stress can push that body into that sympathetic fight or flight state. And an interesting chicken or egg type problem for this situation is that in order to make this hydrochloric acid so that you can break down the food and get all the nutrients out of that food, the body has to be in this parasympathetic rest and digest state. If the body can't get into this state because it's so stressed in this sympathetic state, if it's stuck over here all the time, either because the person is stressed or the body is stressed, then it doesn't have the ability to make that hydrochloric acid so that we can break down the food and get all the minerals out of that food to keep the body from being stressed. So a person can really get stuck in this broken cycle for years or decades. And when you look at a lot of the health issues that are often seen with dysautonomia, you see things like diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and Sjogren's, and it's a lot of things that would be viewed as a significant stress on the body or a scenario where the body is not really getting all the resources that it needs. Issues like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and celiac, all these can be issues where, a loose stool issue is showing that you're really not getting the nutrients out of your food because it's all screaming through the system too fast. So that can be a big stress on the body. Diabetes is a big stress on the body. All that really high blood sugar, the high inflammation that can come from the really high insulin levels, we know that's a stress. But another thing could be viewed as like, what about an infection? Like Lyme's or some other type of infection, or maybe even like a digestive overgrowth. That can be a big stress on the body as the body's trying to deal with this invader. That can be a major burden that can push that body into a I'm in an emergency all the time type state. And the problem is that the solution for this issue for a lot of people is that, I do okay as long as I don't sit up too fast, or walk over there, or go up those stairs, or be around people. Like a lot of the triggers that really magnify symptoms for some of these people can make life very difficult, can make it to where their focus has to be on keeping these symptoms at bay all the time. It's a full-time job just to keep the symptoms down. But what if instead, what if you did have some of these digestive symptoms that we talked about and you took steps to improve the function of that digestive process to allow your body to get more nutrients? Now all of a sudden the body has more resources. Maybe the body can raise this adaptive capacity, allowing it to deal with a little bit more stress. Or maybe you find that there's some kind of burden, like one of these issues, that can be improved or corrected and reduce the stress that the body is dealing with. And I'm not saying that's going to correct this problem, but if you improve some of these issues and you saw improvement, I'd really love to hear about it. So if you want to learn how to fix these digestive issues, my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, chapters 3 and 4, walk you through how to figure out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly and steps you can take to improve those. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below where you can get the whole thing totally for free and really see if you can get some answers for yourself as to finding ways to help the body function a little bit better and reduce the burden that it's dealing with. And that book also helps you figure out if you might be dealing with that anabolic imbalance that we were talking about, that a lot of these symptoms kind of show up in, to maybe see, are there layers of problems that are going wrong in your body and all magnifying this issue up here? And maybe you can take steps to improve those as well. And if you want to figure out if you might be leaning too far in that sympathetic fight or flight state, then jump over right now and check out our video on understanding a sympathetic imbalance, and that'll walk you through some simple tests that you can do at home to figure out if your body appears to be too stuck on that side. I can't wait to hear about your results.